be able to show it to you a little bit better this way. But here it is. Today's the day. I gotta clean this truck. So there it is. Surprisingly, it's not as bad as it was the day we left because it actually snowed on our way out. And it kind of knocked off some of the mud, as you can see, like kind of like right there. But it's still pretty caked on. Now, as far as underneath goes, this is going to be the biggest task. I might take off my skid plates, maybe that front one there. It just depends. I'm gonna see how much mud I can get off without removing it. But yeah, look at all this mud, guys. This is gonna be really fun, and I probably won't do this again. Now, the only reason why I'm cleaning it right now is because my kids keep on like brushing up against my truck, and obviously mud is gonna just scratch the paint, so I'd rather just get most of it off here. And yeah, I might even take off the wheels at some point and clean those too. But I'm gonna get a power washer from my buddy Mr. Ben Byerly, and I'm gonna pull this into the grass because this is all good soil, and I figure I can knock off as much as I can. And then when I get the power washer, I'm gonna start hitting the bottom here really good because it's pretty dirty. And then I'm going to show you guys some of the cleaning products I'm going to use. So right now, all we're going to do is hit it with water. That's all we're going to do. And then the next step would be degreasing the wheels and tires, the underbody. I have a undercarriage cleaner too. I'm going to show you guys. Be sure to check out the description for any products. I get a little discount on Amazon if you buy something off of my description. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. One last thing, out back is probably the worst. I'm probably going to pull down my spare tire. I was going to remove the bumper and just, you know, knock all this down, but it doesn't make sense. The body of the truck needs to be washed, so that undercarriage cleaner is going to help me with most of this stuff. And then what I'll do is I'll probably just spray this all down with degreaser a couple times, do some scrubbing on like this. I hate the fact that GM still does the wax framing because you can't scrub that. You can scrub like your leaf springs, you can scrub your diff right here, your fuel tank, get all that stuff nice and clean. But yeah, it's pretty bad. I'm going to save the wheel wells for my friend's power washer because that's going to take too long. So let's just hit off all the mud on the truck. And just like that, guys, it's all done. I just have to get some degreaser. I can't scrub the paint because you guys can kind of see right there, still a little bit of mud right there. So I'm gonna have to hit that with like a detergent to knock it down a little bit, and then I can start scrubbing. But I hit the wheel wells a little bit more with that garden hose, and it did a pretty good job. But you guys can see that wax coating that GM uses, it kind of holds the mud on there. So I'm gonna have to hit that with like a light degreaser. But I got majority of that mud, and I would say 70% of it is gone. So you guys can see right here, a little bit right there, like a few spots have mud. So here's the last thing I'll show you guys. This is the back bumper and some of the bodies. You can still see there's a few spots with some mud that I need to get out. But once I get that power washer and I use my undercarriage sprayer, I'll get most of this stuff out. But today I want to loosen up majority of the mud in here, number one. But sorry, my audio cut out, but what I was going to say was I was going to pretty much spray this entire underbody down, the framing, the leaves, the wax coating, and once I spray it down with some degreaser, I could use my underbody sprayer for the power washer, and that'll pretty much help loosen up the rest of this mud. So if you look to the left of this framing here, this is the hitch, and that's e-coated. So all I did was just spray this down, and you could just tell the difference in how much easier it is to clean e-coating versus the wax framing. So it's going to be a long process, but I'm sure that it just takes time, but we'll see how everything shakes out here. I've washed the truck 2 times so far since you guys saw the footage. Unfortunately, I couldn't show you guys where I was at the dealership because I couldn't hold the power washer and film. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to report if you hit the wax coating with a power washer, it will actually clean. Now you can kind of see right there, you see how clean it is? I sprayed a little bit of degreaser on that spot, and I also used a power washer that was heated, and the water was super hot, so I did use it on the truck. You can kind of see where I hit the paint at right here. I didn't do a great job because I was kind of rushing because I had somewhere to be. But yeah, cleaned the wheels and tires with some degreaser. It came out perfectly. So all I have to do now is figure out how to remove these back steps. I've already removed my skid plates down below. So this is the one where the transfer case is. This is the front skid plate right there. As you guys see, I've already washed these out a couple times, and there's just still mud sitting in there. But I took off the front, I guess this is a cowl maybe? C-O-W-L, is that how you say that word? You guys can see there's mud kind of sitting in this area too, in the grill. Hopefully you guys can see in there, hopefully. But there's mud kind of sitting there on the sides here. So I have to clean out the engine bay. I have a rag right there. I'm gonna put another one right there. I'm gonna clean off all of this area too, spray it all out. One of my friends, Mr. Ben Byerly, let me borrow his power washer. I was actually about to go buy one because I might as well get one at some point anyways, but this is his. Thank you, bro, for letting me borrow this guy. And let me show you guys something else I have. I bought this, and I mentioned this earlier in the video. I bought this off Amazon, and if you would like to purchase it, I will put it in the description. But this is basically a underbody, undercarriage washer, whatever you want to call it. So you just install your power washer on, and you just go in like this, and you can go pretty far under there too. And that way I can get all the way under the truck, all the way under the bed, under the cab, get all the mud from under there. That's gonna be pretty easy. I will show you guys some footage of me using this, and I'll let you guys know if this is something you should buy. If it's not, I will let you know. Now you can get a 24-inch one too if you want a little bit bigger one, but I figured this is all I need. I'll probably use this for my truck and my wife's car just to get salt from under the cars in the wintertime. So I probably will at some point get a power washer, but let's go ahead and check under the truck so you guys can see. Now I've already power washed the bottom as good as I could get it. So let's go ahead and climb under so you guys can see what's going on. Now this is the suspension. I was able to get this pretty good. I didn't turn the steering wheel in, but now that I have that undercarriage washer, I'm gonna be able to get this really good. So I'm gonna spray all this down with some degreaser. This is where the skid plate was, right here. So you guys can pretty much see under the front bumper. Still a little muddy in there, so I'm probably gonna have to come in with that undercarriage down here. So degrease all of this. And without having that skid plate down, this will be pretty easy to clean. But check out the small axle on these GM trucks, guys. That thing is tiny. I see why people like those solid front axles. That definitely is a lot smaller. That is an open diff, but there's still some mud right there. Like I said, that's where the skid plate was, so I was not able to get all that. So we're gonna get all this clean. You guys can see further down a few other spots too that I was not able to reach with that power washer. But man, that power washer did a great job for what I did get. And let's go ahead and look in the back. Here are those powder pulp running boards. These things hold a ton of mud, by the way. I get all that cleaned up. You guys can pretty much see that's where I hit the frame with the power washer. A little bit of places I need to touch up on right there. That needs to be all touched up with some undercoating. But out back, I did clean off that drive shaft pretty good. That axle can be hit a few more times. I'm gonna degrease all of this stuff up. So I will show you guys a before and after, but all up in here I could not really see. And you guys can see the other side of the frame too. I need to clean all that up too. So before I start spraying with the undercarriage washer, I'm just gonna climb under here and just spray all this with degreaser. I have some degreaser I'm gonna use. Anyone will work. You can use Purple Power, you can use anyone you want. I think that it won't really affect it too much, but do it at your own risk. I'm gonna do it regardless, because if I do take off some of this undercoating or wax framing, I'm gonna just reapply it. I don't remember if you guys remembered how much mud was caked back here. That's the framing on the bed. But even right here on the back bumper, there was mud caked up all in here. So I'm gonna degrease all this, and I'm gonna take off these steps, because unfortunately these steps hold a lot of that mud. And so I want to kind of get these out and clean all up in here. I'm going to drop down the spare tire because I feel like there's probably mud up in there too. So I want to get all that down and get this cleaned off. I need to do a spare tire rotation. I think my buddy Ben Byerly, he does that on his Bronco. So I might go ahead and get this spare tire down, and I might put it in rotation with my tire since it's a matching one. But yeah, I will admit, this wax framing is not as bad as I thought it was. I think it holds up pretty dang good. And all you have to do is just hit it with some undercoating in some spots when it starts to wear off. Like, it always wears off where they connect the hitch right here. Like you guys can see right there, it's kind of worn off a little bit. Right there, you can just touch it up here. But yeah, you want to touch up those spots so you don't get too many rust spots that are hard to fix. So like I said, let's go ahead and start cleaning. I just wanted to show you really quickly. This is like the second before. And then I'll show you guys some footage of me using the sprayer. And then I'll spray some degreaser down here. And then I'll show you guys the final product, okay? Got the spare tire down. It's definitely a lot of mud back inside of here. So I'm glad I took this off. So I'll just clean this wheel up. And I might put this wheel in rotation, like I said, for sure. I took off the steps here. Look how much mud sits there. Also, I pulled up this trim piece on the bumper. You guys see that? There's rocks sitting under this. I don't really like this design, and I hope that GM does something for the redesign, because this holds so much mud and dirt. Even if you don't go off road, like if you're just going down a dirt road, dust just accumulates under all this plastic here. Now, there's not a lot of cleanup under where the spare tire was, so we're good there. So this makes it easier to clean the back. You guys can see the fifth wheel prep package right there. I'm sure you guys would have liked to see these steps taken off here. There's a lot of mud that sits in these bumpers. And the reason why mud is a bad thing is because when mud gets wet, all that does is create moisture and then rust. So that's why I'm going to this extreme to clean these bumpers. This is probably a good project to do once a year. Now, if you want to take these off, there's 2 screws that sit here. There's 3 that sit at the top. But good luck trying not to break these tabs. I managed somehow to get it out, but I didn't break any of my tabs. Luckily, there's one there. It's a little bent in a little bit, but these 2 unscathed. And same thing goes for that one too. But this is probably a good project to do maybe once a year. The side steps are not as bad. I mean, this step part here just kind of pops up. You guys can see it just pops up with some tabs, easy to get off, and you can just clean that pretty easily. But the back ones, it'll probably take you 15 minutes to take each side off if you're just being careful. If you just want to rip it off, you can do that too, but it may not seat back properly. Alrighty guys, so really quickly, I've pretty much already sprayed the framing here. So I'm gonna go ahead and start hitting this with the power washer and the undercarriage cleaner. So we'll see how well this works. The opposite side of the framing is a little bit more dirtier, so I may have to spray it one more time. And let's go ahead and start getting this all cleaned up now. I did use some degreaser from the dealership, and I also used this gunk stuff. I used two. I did get the foamy one, and then the heavy duty one is probably the better one to go with because I feel like it did get most of that mud off of the wax coating on the frame. So definitely recommend these, and purple power would be good enough too to, you know, help too to agitate some of that dirt off. Should be able to show it to you a little bit better this way, but here it is. The skid plates, they are pretty much done. I also had to put a little bit of paint on this because it was scraped up a little bit, but nice and clean. We'll go ahead and reinstall all this stuff now. A few people said I would not be able to get the mud off this truck, and that's just not true. Obviously it's going to take a lot, don't get me wrong. But if you really want to clean your truck, it's just a time-consuming thing. Next time, if I ever go off road like that again, I'm taking off the fender flares, the mud flaps. As you guys saw, I took off the skid plates. I took off those rear steps. These steps came off. I didn't have to pull the bumper. I was going to, and I was going to pull the grill. Not the bumper, the grill. I was going to pull that off. And I didn't have to, but even the wheels, I have a brush that gets way back in there. And so I just scrub the tires. I don't use tire shine. Tire shine is, I don't think it should be on a truck, just my opinion. But got all the shocks all nice and clean. I actually went under there with a rag and wiped those down. And I kind of cleaned off the leaf springs a little bit, but not really. But yeah, definitely taking off all these steps were worth it. And you guys can even see like the framing there is so clean. The biggest mistake I made was not having the power washer early on, because when I used the garden hose to get off all that mud, I didn't dry the truck off. So I should have used a power washer and then drove it down the road, came back, hit it again, and then, you know, start scrubbing the paint. But I had to buy this stuff right here you definitely want to get this for water spots because that made the biggest difference. Now let me just kind of climb under here so you guys can see just the rest of the underbody. These steps too got nice and clean, but check that out, guys. This underbody is clean. And that undercarriage washer, it did the trick. It got most of that mud out of there, and using a little bit of degreaser really helped agitate a lot of that dirt off like the framing here. And something to consider too, mud does sit up on top of the frame rails, so you will have to use your garden hose there. But before you start hitting the body of the truck, I would say hit the undercarriage first, get as much mud as you can off, and then work on the paint, because I did it kind of opposite. Really, I did it together, and the water spots killed me. That's what took the most time personally, trying to get all those water spots off. But taking off the skid plates helped a lot, and removing all the steps and some of the trimming. But next time I'll probably take off everything. I'll probably take off the fender liners and the mud flaps, everything, because I feel as though the job would have been a little bit easier. You guys can see there's a few spots that I missed, but as time goes on, I can always come back under here and touch up a few spots. But let me know your guys' thoughts. I won't probably do that ever again, so yeah, it's just too much work, guys. Like, I'd rather not have a lot of mud under my truck because, yeah, mud holds moisture, and moisture creates rust later.